Welcome, everyone, teachers and educators from across the great state of New Mexico. We're really excited to have you here. This is a learning session that is sponsored by New Mexico Connected Communities Collaborative, NMC3. And this is session 12. We are looking at how to build a digital escape room with our amazing host today, Paige Wheeler. She's a program specialist at the STEM Outreach Center here at NMSU.
As Ali said, my name is Paige Wheeler and I am a program specialist with the STEM Outreach Center, and today's session is on how to build a digital escape room. This is actually the first in a series of at least 3 sessions. This will be sort of an introduction to what is a digital escape room and how you go about maybe planning one out if you've never done that before. But before we dive into all of that stuff, just sort of wanted to introduce myself a little bit and why I am talking about these digital escape rooms. I have done a few in-person escape rooms, which is where the digital escape rooms have come from, and enjoyed those. And then last fall realized that, oh, there's digital escape rooms out there that people have created as well, and tried a couple of them, and those were sort of fun too. And then I was like, hey, I bet I could do this. So tried that out and have so far made 4 that I've published and shared with teachers around, and working on a 5th one that should hopefully be up in the next week or 2. So if you come back for the next session, maybe I'll share some of that one then. Or if we have your email from registering for this, I'll see if I can send those out. That's sort of a little bit about me and why I'm talking about escape rooms today. And I do hope that this can be a learning experience for all of us. If you know some of what I'm going to be saying, I hope you'll bear with me. If it's all new, I hope you learn something and can take something useful back for your class and your school. So let's start at the very beginning, since it seems most people have not done an escape room, even if you've heard the term before. A digital escape room is also sometimes called a digital breakout. So digital escape rooms are a spin-off from a physical escape room, which were entertainment venues that are not in business quite as much at the moment, but hopefully will come back when things get back to a more normal state. They take you and a group of friends, typically between 2 and 12 people, maybe on average 4 to 8, and lock you in a room or series of rooms that are full of puzzles and mysteries and quizzes or games or things to figure out. And so you can move through the scene or room that you're in and escape. For safety reasons, you're not really truly locked in the room. So the digital escape rooms have taken that idea and converted them into a variety of digital formats, commonly Google Forms or Google Slides, or a Google site. But if you're not a Google person, there are other ways to do it. It brings those puzzles together with a theme that ties them all together, and any participants can work through those and escape or solve whatever challenge has been presented. I've come up with 3 ways that you could use digital escape rooms in a class setting. So the first one will be as some sort of review. I think review games are pretty common, maybe a Jeopardy style game or a matching game or whatever it is. And this can be another tool in your review toolkit. So whatever content you've been going over, turning that content into some sort of puzzle or mystery for students to solve, and then they have to work through applying the knowledge that they have acquired during your unit or lesson. Another way, and what I've been mostly focused on in the rooms I've created, is just sort of for fun. So for example, the first one I created was back in October, and I was like, what could I do this around? What's my theme? And it's like, oh, Halloween's coming up soon. So I put together a series of Halloween themed fun puzzles. And then I did another one at Thanksgiving and at Christmas. So I took those holiday themes to build my puzzles around. Sort of sky's the limit when you're thinking of themes. Those are some examples of just for fun. And then a last option could be extra credits. I'm sure everybody has those students who are just done really quick and want to do more, or what's next, and a set of puzzles might be able to keep them a little bit busier and on task, continuing to develop whatever skills you're working on or continuing the themes that you're working on a little bit longer in an engaging, fun way. So it's not just a busy worksheet that they're doing, but something that they're engaged in learning. As you explore escape rooms, I encourage you to maybe start with these ideas, but definitely feel free to expand on them and find the ways that escape rooms are going to work best for you and your class. All right, so where do you start if you want to create your escape? As I've gone through my creation process, and as I did some research and still do some research, looking up how other people have done it and recommendations, these are sort of 6 steps, if you will, that I've sort of cobbled together of how to go about starting to create your escape room. And I will freely admit that I do not go in order all of the time. Sometimes it's a more cyclical process for me. I need to pick my puzzles before the theme really clarifies itself or something like that. But I think these are a good 6 to start with, and we'll go from there. So quickly, they are to know your objective, what you want to do with your room, to set your stage, pick your theme and your narrative and what the escape will be, picking your puzzles, gathering your resources, deciding what technology you're going to use, and then testing to make sure everything is working smoothly before you give it to your students. So we'll start at the beginning. Knowing your objectives, similar to almost anything else you're going to do as a teacher, creating assignments or units or whatever, it's really helpful if you start with the end in mind. So if you know what you want the students to get out of your escape room, it's going to help you put that into the escape room. And yes, I will be sharing all this later in the session. So you're welcome to take notes, but you will also be getting all of these things, so don't frantically write everything. So yes, knowing your objectives, starting with the end in mind. If you have specific content standards that go with your lesson or with your unit or with your theme, and those can help you narrow your focus. Those standards haven't been a big part of my design, mostly because, again, I'm doing this for fun. I'm not working with one specific grade level. I'm just doing it as a resource that I'm happy to share with any of the teachers that we work with in the STEM Outreach Center. But if that is something that can help you tailor and narrow down what you want to get out of the room, I'd say go for it and use whatever resources you have. Then you want to set the stage. So you know where you're going. Setting the stage can sort of help you get there. It's where you bring out your creative side and create your backstory or your narrative or your plot for your room. What are you doing? What are you escaping from? So for example, the Thanksgiving room that I created, I have 2 turkeys, Cobbler and Gobbler, and they do not want to be on your Thanksgiving table. So they are requesting your help to escape from the farm. So that is the story or theme, and the puzzles all sort of tie in to that to a greater or lesser degree. Again, the sky is the limit. So if you want to draw on inspiration from the physical escape rooms, those have anything from getting out of a pirate ship to solving a murder mystery to escaping an alien abduction to solving the murder on the Orient Express. Very broad range of themes in those rooms, and I'd say feel free to use any of those or more for your own. As I've explored digital escape rooms online, any literary character, Harry Potter, Alice in Wonderland, Mario Kart, Doctor Who, Carmen Sandiego, they're all there and more. So whatever it is, I'm sure you can find a theme, one that works for your content and matches your students' interests. Keep the theme in mind as you go through the rest of the planning process. So as you're designing your puzzles, keeping those tied in. So if, say, you picked a pirate theme, you maybe don't want to have a very techie looking puzzle that's like an alien spaceship combination lock that the pirate has to solve. That doesn't quite fit together. So keeping your theme in mind once you pick it to help guide how your puzzles look can also help and keep the atmosphere of the room coherent throughout. And then the props, as you decorate your digital room with images or pictures or videos or the theme, the background, keeping that in mind so everything sort of ties together and creates its own little world. Then picking your puzzles. I've mentioned this a couple times. What do I mean by puzzles? So these could be actual puzzles, questions, or other small tasks that your students need to complete to move forward in order to complete that objective, whether that is an escape from something, like my turkeys were trying to escape the farm, or the Halloween room I created, the theme was we are having a class Halloween party, but all of a sudden, all of our snacks disappeared. So help us find the snacks. So we're not trying to escape from something, but we're trying to find the clues to find our snacks. So finding, solving, and escaping, whatever those are, the puzzles are the small steps you're taking in order to get to that final objective. And as you're thinking about your puzzle, also think about the locks or clues, and that's what your answer is. A common locking mechanism for escape rooms is Google Forms or any other survey platform that you prefer. And especially in Google Forms, using the response validation is a very helpful feature to make sure the students or participants have their answer before they move on to the next question or puzzle. And so those work best with short answer responses where they're typing something in. So this could be letters, it could be words, it could be numbers, it could be an alphanumeric combination, could be a date or a time, or any other keyboard symbol that's easy to type in. So if you wanted a $sign or a percentage, if you're working with math, all of those work. It is also possible to do a Google form validation with multiple choice questions. So if you had a longer text that you wanted to choose between, that's also an option. Slightly more complicated validation, but that's a talk we'll go into next time when we talk more about tech. Teaser for next session. But yeah, you can have a wide range of locks that you want, but as you're thinking about the puzzle, think about the answer that's going to fit your platform. And then how many should you use? I found that maybe 4 to 6 puzzles is a good starting point when you're especially doing your first one. It's not too many so that people get tired, but it's enough to keep their interest and still do it in maybe about a class period. That's the other element of physical escape rooms, is that you're usually on a clock, typically 60 minutes. So 45 to 60 minutes might be a good timing block to think of in your class, maybe as low as 30, depending on your grade range. 4 to 6 might be a good range to start with. And then one option, depending on the purpose of your escape room, how you're using it, and what format you're using, there is an option to add fake or extra clues that are maybe red herrings to throw you off. So it's an additional puzzle that you can do more just for fun instead of giving you an answer to get out or solve the final objective. Once you've picked your puzzles, then it's time to gather your resources. So what do you need, or what do you need to find or create for the puzzles? If you are doing something with history, maybe your students need to read an article or watch a video or analyze a picture or complete a logic puzzle or look at some class reference materials, your textbook or your class notes. What do they need to find the information to solve the puzzle? And then also thinking about how students will access these. If it's an article or video or a picture, can you embed that or link to it in your escape room? If it's a separate resource, a textbook or some class notes, what can you do to make sure students have access to that? Maybe that's the key. They just have to find a page number. So do they have their book with them? That could be a sort of red herring puzzle, if you will. But that you know that they are keeping up with their materials. Then once we have all of that bulk planning done, we sort of have a plan, we know what we're doing, where we're going, how we're going to get there. Now it's time to think about the doing it part, the technology. And like I've said before, I'm not going to go into too much of the technology in this session because it could take 10 hours. So I'll have a couple other sessions in March that dive into some of these technology pieces. But again, I've mentioned the common platforms are Google Forms, Google Slides, Google Sites. And I've also heard of email. I haven't seen many of those, but it's definitely doable if you like using email and maybe a longer term escape room that's a bit more drawn out. But thinking through which of these platforms or another platform. If you're not a Google fan, that's completely fine. I'm not trying to convert anybody, but whatever the equivalent is that works for you. This is the time to think about which platform is going to work best for your escape. And then this is also when you want to start thinking about what props, what images are going to create the world of your escape room and bring that a bit of that fun into it. All right. And then finally, testing. Test, and double test again. So I'm sure we've all had technology issues at some point this year. Something hasn't worked quite right. We don't want that to happen to students when they're trying to go through the escape room. So before you send it out to your students, do all of the extra tests. If you think you've done it, just check it one more time just to be sure. One tip as you're testing to use a private browser, whether that's Chrome Incognito or whatever other private browser you prefer, and log out of any Google account, or if you use some other technology platform, log out of any account that you've used to build it so that you're seeing it from a student's perspective and you don't have any owner permissions that could give you access that they might not. Couple things to check: spelling and grammar. Just double check all those typos. Maybe get a friend to help with that, because I know sometimes I go word blind after I've been staring at something for long enough. Like, I know what it's supposed to say, whether it says it or not, that's what I'm going to see it as. Access and permissions, especially if you're using a Google ecosystem, making sure that anybody can see or view anything that you have shared, so that they don't just get a blank screen that you don't have permission to see. Links, if you're using external links of any sort, making sure that they all work properly and it didn't get copied over incorrectly. And then if you're using Google Forms as your locking mechanism, do you have all of the response validations and skip logic enabled and set properly? So that's a lot of talking. Great. But what do these actually look like? I want to show you a couple quickly that I've created. This is the first one I created. It was Halloween themed because I was working on this first time in October. My hook is to save our party. We need your help. The class was having an awesome Halloween party until all the snacks and candy disappeared. So that is why we're escaping, why we're here. Then click around the room below. The icon will change when you find a clue. Solve the puzzles, enter them in the form at the bottom, and find the snacks to save the party. That's what you need to do. Then I have this image that I created using Google Drawings, and you can see as I move around that sometimes I have a regular cursor arrow, and sometimes I have a hand. So anytime it turns to a hand, that is my clue, and I can click on it. It'll open up in a new tab, and here's the clue. In this one, solve each math problem. Fill in the message spaces with the letters that match the correct answer to read the secret message. So we have these short addition problems that all relate to a letter, and then we have this message combination at the bottom. So the answers to all of these addition problems will match with the numbers at the bottom and give you a secret message. And that message may be a clue. So do we have any math teachers out there who can quickly find my answer?
I'm going to take a guess that it says Happy Halloween.
It's a pretty good guess. Yes. If I come back over to my main page and I scroll down a little bit more, you can see here's a Google form that I embedded into this Google site, and I have 5 clues that I am looking for: 8 letters, 2 digits, 12 letters, 6 digits, and 14 letters. And if you count it up, Happy Halloween is 14 letters. I can double check that because if I click off of this, it doesn't give me an incorrect answer. But if I didn't add the N at the end, it says try no spaces. Maybe if I had written it like normal with happy space Halloween, it would also give me that. For time's sake, I'm not going to go through all of the different puzzles, but you're more than welcome to try them out. However, if you close your eyes for a second. All right, so when I get all of the correct answers and hit next, then I get this little picture that pops up and says, great, happy Halloween, you found our treats and saved the day. Thank you. So this, again, is built into the form, and that's just how that works. And then the other one I wanted to show is I created one in February for President's Day that is built in a Google form instead of built in a Google site. This is the introduction, just sort of says what we're doing. Again, this is testing your presidential trivia knowledge, and then some instructions on how to go about doing the puzzle. And then if I click next, I get to the first question that says Joseph Biden was inaugurated on January 20th, 2021 as the 46th President of the United States. How many people have been President of the United States? So again, if in the chat or shout it out, do you know the answer? We can check 46. No, it is not 46. And it is 45 because Grover Cleveland was the 22nd and the 24th president. He's the only president to have 2 non-consecutive terms. And then I found some little videos from PBS about the president. So there's a little clip if you want to learn more about Grover Cleveland. So another example, this where I'm using a multiple choice question, is asking about the eligibility requirements for serving as the U.S. president. There are 3 in the U.S. Constitution. This is a little video that tells what they are.
Lots of people dream of becoming President of the United States. But to officially run for office, a person needs to meet 3 basic requirements established by the U.S. Constitution. A presidential candidate must be a natural-born citizen, at least 35 years old, and a U.S. resident for at least 14 years. For more information, go to kids.usa.gov/president.
So if you didn't know, now you know, and the answer is just one of these 4 bullets. And just to show what it looks like if you use a multiple choice question, I select the incorrect answer. I've set it up so the form says, nope, sorry, try again. And then I can just click next, and I'd have it set up to go back, and I can pick the correct answer, and then yes, that's where we are. Okay, so you guys have the links and you can try them out. For time's sake, I'm not going to go further right now because I'm going to let you guys try it out. Do you have a lesson or activity or task that you could imagine turning into an escape room? I have created a workbook. It's in a Google Sheet, and I will show you what that looks like. So it looks like this. Again, it has these 6 stages and has some work area for you to jot down your ideas of what your puzzles and locks and everything are going to be. At the end, it does have a couple reference pages, some blogs or how-to articles that I found useful as I started, then some sample puzzles. The ones I've created are in here. If you're looking for samples that are more geared toward an early elementary audience, this 40+ digital escape room has some good samples there. This one is samples from a bunch of libraries around the country that are interesting, especially if you're more literary, but not solely literary. And then if you like Google Slides, this Disney World one is, I think, a really fun example of how Google Slides can be turned into an escape room. There's also some resources on puzzles, using different online tools to build or create puzzles, and then image resources, some clip art and different photo search websites that are all completely free. We're going to go into breakout rooms, and you can go through this workbook, start thinking of it, how it can apply to something in your classroom. You're also welcome to jump to those reference pages if you're completely new to digital escape rooms and you want to look through some of those blog articles or try out some of the other samples. Feel free to do that, and we'll come back in 15 minutes and see where we are, what questions you might have, or thoughts or comments, any of the above. Welcome back. Hope you all had a chance to explore a little bit or brainstorm a little bit, either shout out or in the chat. What are some things that you came up with, either wonderings you have after going through the workbook a little bit, or if you have some ideas about using this in your classroom, what's popping to mind? What do you think? What are you excited or curious about? Wondering. Does a clue always have to open in a new tab? That is sort of how it's set up on a Google site. If you're using a different platform, no, you wouldn't necessarily open it in a new tab. And there's probably a way to prevent that from happening if you're working and building your own Google site. One reason it could be a good feature is that anytime you leave a page where a Google form is, it will ask you if you have not saved your responses if you want to leave the page. So by opening each new clue in a new tab, you're keeping your track record of clues that you have found. So that's one reason it's a positive feature. They're wondering. Our group was looking at how to get started. Just brainstorming, or do you have a specific question about the getting started bit?
We were brainstorming, trying to figure out, okay, what was the platform that we used, and then finally we went to slide 11, and that's where it was telling us, what platforms can be used, and we figured, well, we have to play with it and see how we can work that out.
Yeah, and I do think Different platforms work better with different formats of escape rooms. So like with a Google form, if you want a very linear room where you have, like, say you're doing an escape room around a novel or a story that your class is working on, and you want to sort of mimic a character's progress over the course of a novel, or maybe over a course of a person's life in history, they have to answer one at a time and go through it linearly. Whereas the Google site, you can jump around. You don't have to do them in a specific order. If you open a puzzle and like, I don't understand this, or I'm sort of stuck, you can go somewhere else and work on something else and then come back to a different one. And if that works with how your style works with the purpose of your room, that's great. This could also play into how you're using it as an activity in your class. If you're doing it as a group activity, having that non-linear version where different members of the group can be all working on a different puzzle at the same time might be a positive, so no one feels left out. Whereas if you're going through a Google form, that could be a little bit harder to make sure everybody in the group is included. But if you did it more as an individual assignment, like a homework review or something, that could be good. They're going through, and you can check that everybody, all of the students know all of the things that you're trying to review with them. And I'm still working through how to build a Google Slides escape room. You could do it very linearly, but there's also some that I've seen that more mimic websites. So instead of having a Google site as your homepage, there's a Google slide that sort of one slide is your homepage, and it links out to different resources, and that's your escape room. Again, there's different platforms have different strengths and weaknesses, and what your goal is, what your objective is, should probably help drive which platform you use. Any other thoughts or comments? Thank you all for coming.
We really appreciate you all spending time with us and doing a little learning for something that's really fun and a potential cool and engaging tool for your kiddos.